Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Today we're going to look at Jeremiah chapter 5 verses 29 and 30. These two verses actually make a transition. Verse 29 sort of closes as a summary verse the rest of the chapter, the previous sections of the chapter, and verse 30 is going to open up into the last two verses. And so we'll take a look at it. There's actually not too much to look at here in some ways because, I'll explain that as we go through it. So let's go ahead and read the text in Hebrew. It might sound a little familiar to you. So, Ha'al ele lo efkod ne'om Adonai, im bogoy asher kazeh lo titnakem nafshi. Shama v'sha'arura nihyeta ba'aretz. Well, if you look at this first verse here, this is verse 29 right here, you're going to notice, verse 29, you're going to notice something that probably should look a little bit familiar, because if I'm actually going to hide this verse and pull back an earlier video from Jeremiah 5:9, and verse 29 that we have in our text today is actually identical to a little bit earlier in the chapter, verse 9, where the Lord said, this is a hey interrogative. I won't go through the whole analysis here because it's exactly what we saw earlier. If you want to go back and look at it, just go back to the Daily Dose of Hebrew website, look under the special editions and under Jeremiah, and you'll be able to go down special editions under Jeremiah. You'll be able to find verse 9 over here. From chapter 5, and you'll get a whole detailed analysis. But briefly stated, it comes out something like what we see with the King James here, with this hey interrogative. Shall I not, literally, not on account of these things will I visit? Will I not visit them, declares the Lord? And against a nation which is like this, will my soul not take revenge? So the King James said, shall I not visit for these things, in the sense of punish, or usually the sense of punish, says the Lord, and shall not my soul or I myself be avenged on such a nation as this? So if you want to work through this one in a little more detail, if you have any questions on it, go back through Daily Dose of Hebrew Special Editions, verse 29, and you'll be able to pick it up there. So, but let's go back over to the verse we have over here, and there we go, and pick up verse 30. Which is actually making the transition to a new section. And what we have here with this last line is very simple. We just have a shama, and shama is a feminine noun meaning something appalling, something horrific. And then we find sort of a synonym with this next word, sha'arura, which means a horrible thing. And this word here is a pretty rare word. It's only used here and then in Jeremiah again, chapter 23, verse 14, where's the second and only other time that we find this word. So they're sort of synonyms. They're taken as a common idea together, something appalling, something horrific. And then what do we have with this one here? Well, this is the one that's just a little bit tricky, because here we have, this is a perfect, and this is a perfect 3fs with this ending on it here, and a nun at the beginning, a prefix of the nifal. So, and this is from our verb haya, meaning to be, to exist, so to speak. So, if it means to be there in the kal stem, in the nifal, it has the sense of something to happen. In the old King James in the New Testament, we might translate it, and it came to pass. So, and this combined idea of something appalling and something horrific or horrible thing, this idea together has come to pass in there's your article there, in the land. So pretty straightforward. Now, what exactly is it which has come to pass in the land? Well, you're going to have to come back next time to find out as we look at the last verse of the chapter, verse 31. Let's go ahead and hide our work here and look at just three translations very, very quickly. King James Version. Wonderful. Now, this is wonderful in the old sense of 17th century English, 16th, 17th century English. Wonderful does not necessarily mean something that's marvelous in our eyes today, but something that creates wonder, and it can be in a negative sense as well as a positive sense. So a wonderful and horrible thing is committed, is happened, has done, has come to be in the land. If we were to look at the Christian Standard Bible, an appalling, horrible thing. So here you see this kind of an appositional sense in some ways, an explanatory sense. An appalling, horrible thing has taken place in the land. And then one more in the Net Bible, something horrible and shocking is going on. They're actually bringing that into a present tense, which isn't wrong, because it's something that's the prophet is continuing to see in the land. And then they specify of Judah, because that's where Jeremiah is, even though it's not specified in the text here. Now, as I said, what is this appalling, horrible, shocking thing that's going on? We're going to find that actually in verse 31, in the very last verse of this chapter, as the Lord is speaking to his people here. So if you want to find out, you're going to have to check back with us next week in our weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. So take care and shalom.